It was the winter of 1990, and I was living down in Fort Lauderdale, and I was really sick of it. I lived there about 10 years, and I had a degree in business administration, but I really didn't want a 9-to-5 job, and I really wanted to travel. So I decided that I would become a flight attendant. And I got hired by a major airline, and they sent me down to Dallas, Texas for 6 weeks training. And they don't tell you until graduation day where they're going to send you to be based. And in my case, I got sent to Dallas. I got sent to Washington, D.C. And there I was on 6 months probation, which means they could fire you at any time until you get into the union. You got for red or blue? What you got for red or blue?
Red, please.
So, this is Robert. Yes. You know how long it's going to be? Okay. All right. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, the captain has informed me that it's going to get really turbulent, and the flight attendants have to stow the cards until further notice. Sorry. So anyway, I got a phone call from crew scheduling, and they told me I was going to have a trip the next morning, and I would be laying over in West Palm Beach, Florida, which is about 45 minutes from Fort Lauderdale, where I was living. And my best friend Scotty, he still lived down there, and he always reminded me of like Jim Carrey, or he had a personality of Tigger. Had so much energy, and he was really fun to be around. And when I would go out with him, I really felt like a poodle jumping through hoops. I was so excited to see him, and we always had a really good time together. So I called him up, and he said he just got hired by KB Toys as a regional manager, and that the gig in the company van, and he would just pick me up, and then we could go out, and I could just change him his car. So he came to the West Palm Beach airport, picked me up in his van, and we drove to Roosters, which was the neighborhood gay bar. And we thought we would catch up there and then go out dancing afterwards. So we pulled into the parking lot, and he decided to get out and have a cigarette. And he would watch for me while I changed clothes. So, as I was changing out of my uniform, I noticed that a carload of guys peeled into the parking lot. And then another one. And then another one. And my heart went into my throat. And I looked at Scott and I said, "Scott, get in the car." And he said, "All right, it's getting crowded." And I said, "Scott, get in the damn car." And right after that, a guy came up and punched him in the stomach. And it knocked him against the other inside the car against the other side. And then they grabbed my leg and they started pulling me out. And I couldn't grab the door because it was new. I couldn't figure out how the damn door opened. And they were grabbing both legs, and there were so many of them. And I saw bats and knives, and I could hear glass breaking. And I felt something warm on my face, and it was blood. And I was freaking out. I couldn't close the door. And I could smell the hot breath and liquor on my face. And I looked up and I looked in the guy's face, and it was like that last scene in Rosemary's Baby where there's just nothing there. There's absolutely nothing there. And they were pulling me out, and they couldn't get to me because there was too many of them at the time, and I couldn't get the door closed. And finally, I wriggled away, and I got the door closed. And the van started shaking, and they were breaking the glass with bats and knives and screaming, "You fucking faggots, we're gonna kill you." And suddenly Scott went to hysterics and he fell back and he hit the horn. And when he hit the horn, the people came out of the bar and they said, relax, relax, come inside, we'll call an ambulance, we'll call the cops, and you're cut, and we think you might need stitches. So I went inside, and the bartender gave me a couple drinks. He said, go clean yourself up. And he called the police, and the police wanted to know what's the make of the car, what kind of car is it, what's the license plate number. And I said, I can't think, it all happened too fast. And he said, don't worry, I'm a hypnotist, and I can help you out. So go in the bathroom and get cleaned up. So he gave me a couple beers. I went to the bathroom. I started cleaning up, but I couldn't get the blood from stopping. And the bartender came in the bathroom, and he took off his watch, and he went up to me and he said, relax, just look at the watch, relax. And I said, I can't relax, I almost got killed, I can't relax. And he said, just relax, you're at the Bird Eye store, and the Galleria Mall, and you're going down the escalator, and they're having a white sale. And I said, what kind of gay shit is this? What are you doing? And he said, you need to relax. And he grabbed me by my shoulders and he said, you need to calm down, calm down. And he started massaging my shoulder. And then he started massaging my arm and my hand. And he said, calm down, buddy, calm down, it's going to be okay. And then he started massaging my chest. And then he started fondling me, and I said, you motherfucker, get away from me, what are you doing? And right then the door opened and the cop was there. And he said, we need to take you outside and make a report. So I went outside, and the ambulance driver came up, and he said, why did you call me? And I said, well, I thought I might need stitches on my face. And he said, I'm not touching that. Put a Band-Aid on it, buddy. And he got in the car and drove off. And the bartender was upset because he was wondering why he didn't help me more. And the cop started asking me, well, what's your name, what's your address? And I said, 1512 Swan Street, Washington, D.C. And he said, well, what city do you live in? I said, 1512 Swan Street, Washington, D.C. He said, what state do you live in? I said, I live in Washington, D.C. And he said, what city do you live in? I know what state you live in. I said, it's Washington, D.C. It's the District of Columbia. It's where the president lives. It's the White House, for God's sake. And I still don't think he got it. And then he said, well, what happened? I said, well, it was a hate crime. We were attacked with knives and bats, and we were just in the parking lot. And he said, well, that's really strange, because this is the third gay bar that's happened in the city tonight. And I said, well, don't you think you should call someone? There's only 4 in the city. Don't you think you should get to the next one? And he just got in the car. And the next day, I was on probation, so I was afraid to call in sick. So I had to go back to work. I went to the West Palm Beach Airport. And I was the extra, which means you have a new crew. So I met the captain and the first officer, and I had a bandage and a black eye on my face. And they asked me what happened. And I was afraid they weren't going to let me work. So I told them what happened, and they just looked at the floor. They didn't say anything. They just walked away and went to the cockpit. And I sat on the jump seat, and this female flight attendant started talking to me, and she asked me what happened. And I told her, and she started bawling. And she went into hysterics, and she said the same thing happened to my brother 2 weeks ago. And he was hospitalized in critical condition because he was attacked with canes. And I was nervous because we were taking off, and I had 12 minutes to serve that first drink, or I could get in trouble. And I was on probation. And I had to calm her down. And so I took the card out to first class, and I went up to the first gentleman, and I said, would you care for something to drink? And he nudged the friend next to him, and he said, what happened to you, buddy? Did your girlfriend hit you? And they burst out laughing. And 2 weeks later, I ran into that flight attendant that had been crying. And I was really happy to see her because she knew what I went through. And she said, I've never met you before. I don't know who you are. And how did you know my brother was hurt? Bye-bye. Bye-bye.